The first light of dawn creeps over the sugarcane fields of Negros, painting the horizon in soft hues of orange and gold. Lauro, 28 years old and built by years of hard labor, steps into the muddy fields barefoot. The cool earth squeezes between his toes, but he's long used to it. This land has been his life since childhood. His shirt is thin, faded from countless washings under the pump, and his hands are rough, scarred from machetes, thorns, and days spent beneath the unforgiving sun. With each swing of his bolo, Lauro begins to hum. At first, it's quiet, a simple melody he remembers from late-night radio broadcasts on an old transistor radio taped together with electrical wire. Then his voice grows stronger, deeper, echoing across the waking fields. He sings rock songs he's never fully heard, only fragments and chorus lines, but somehow his voice carries the growl, the grit, and the emotion of a seasoned performer. Birds perched on bamboo posts flap away, startled by the sudden power in his voice. Nearby farmers pause, leaning on their tools as his singing rolls across the plantation. They've heard him before, and every time, they shake their heads in disbelief. Lauro, they often say, your voice doesn't belong in the fields. It belongs on a big stage, somewhere far from here. But Lauro only smiles and keeps working. He never believed dreams like that were meant for people like him. That morning, as he sings louder than usual, a foreign tourist walking along the dirt road stops, mesmerized. She pulls out her phone and starts recording. Lauro doesn't notice. He's lost in the music, lost in a world where he feels free. He has no idea that this single moment, captured on a shaky phone camera, will soon change his life forever. Lauro never expected a message to change his life. It arrived on a humid afternoon while he was repairing a bamboo fence behind their small nipa hut. His sister ran toward him, waving her phone like a flag. Kuya, look, look, she shouted breathlessly. Lauro wiped sweat from his forehead and squinted at the screen. There, in perfect English he barely understood, was an invitation. X Factor UK had seen the viral video of him singing in the fields, and they wanted him to audition. For a moment, Lauro froze. He felt his heart hammering in his chest. Him, a farmer from Negros, on a global stage. Word spread quickly around the village. By sundown, neighbors were already gathering at his home, offering advice, good wishes, and whatever little money they could spare. Someone donated a second-hand suitcase, another lent him a jacket, and the local Sari store owner paid for his passport photos. It became a community mission. Everyone wanted Lauro to take a piece of their hope with him. The night before his flight, Lauro lay awake, staring at the bamboo ceiling. Fear and excitement wrestled in his mind. What if he failed? What if people laughed at him? But then he remembered the fields, the long days, the dreams he buried under work, and he knew he had to try. When he boarded the plane the next morning, it felt like stepping into another world. The seat was soft, the air cold, the engines loud. He clutched the borrowed jacket tightly, whispering a prayer under his breath as the plane lifted into the sky. Hours later, when he arrived at Heathrow Airport, the freezing London air hit him like a shock. He looked around, massive screens, crowded halls, people rushing everywhere. For the first time in his life, Lauro felt small, but he also felt powerful. The backstage area of X Factor UK buzzed with nerves and energy. Contestants dressed in leather jackets, sparkling dresses, and trendy boots practiced their vocals loudly, hitting high notes that echoed off the studio walls. Lauro stood among them in his simple jeans, borrowed jacket, and worn slippers he refused to throw away. He felt like a grain of rice in a sea of glitter. Cameras moved around, capturing every anxious expression, but Lauro tried to stay calm by whispering the lyrics of the rock song he had practiced endlessly. A production assistant approached him. "You're next," she said with a friendly smile. Lauro swallowed hard. His hands trembled. He could barely believe he was here, thousands of miles from the fields, about to face judges he had only seen on TV screens during fiestas. When his name was called, Lauro stepped through the curtains. The stage lights blinded him for a moment. The massive theater stretched before him like a world of its own. The audience murmured, curious. The judges looked up. Simon Cowell, with his unreadable expression, leaned back in his chair. Nicole Scherzinger smiled politely, the others waited silently. Lauro introduced himself softly. "I am Lauro, from the Philippines," he said, almost whispering. "I'm a farmer." The audience reacted with gentle chuckles, surprised. Simon raised an eyebrow. And what will you be singing? He asked. Lauro lifted the microphone, trying to steady his breath. A rock song. I hope you like it. There was a pause, the kind that feels like a lifetime. Then the music started. As the first beat dropped, Lauro closed his eyes and unleashed a raw, powerful, gravelly growl that shook the room. Gasps burst from the audience. Nicole's mouth fell open. Simon leaned forward, stunned. By the first chorus, everyone knew. This was no ordinary farmer. This was a rock star. He had made it. The moment Lauro hit the chorus, the entire theater transformed. His voice, raw, gritty, and fueled by years of struggle, soared through the air with the force of a thunderstorm. The sound crew glanced at each other, shocked by the sheer power of a man who looked like he'd walked straight from a rice field onto the biggest stage in the UK. The audience reacted first. People who had been whispering or scrolling their phones suddenly sat up straight. A woman in the front row slapped her hands over her mouth. A teenage boy in a leather jacket stood instantly, shouting, "Wow!" The energy spread like wildfire. Before the first minute ended, half the crowd was on their feet. On the judges' panel, Nicole Scherzinger's eyes sparkled. She leaned forward, shaking her head in disbelief. Where did that come from? She whispered. Next to her, Sharon Osbourne nudged Simon, who hadn't moved since Lauro began. Simon's expression, usually calm, controlled, even cold, was completely shattered. His mouth hung open slightly, and his eyebrows shot up in pure shock. Lauro, lost in the moment, gripped the microphone tighter. His voice cracked with emotion as he belted out the second verse, channeling every heartbreak, every early morning in the fields, every dream he thought was impossible. He wasn't just singing, he was pouring out his life. By the final chorus, the theater was roaring. People clapped in rhythm, waving their arms, shouting his name. When the music stopped, there was a second of stunned silence, followed by an explosion of applause so loud the floor seemed to vibrate. Simon slowly stood up. The crowd gasped. With a rare, genuine smile, he said, "I've been doing this for many years, and I can tell you right now, you were born to be a rock star." The moment Lauro walked off the stage, still shaking from the applause, the producers swarmed him. Cameras captured his every breath as he tried to steady himself, disbelief flooding his eyes. Little did he know, his audition, uploaded within hours, was already spreading online like wildfire. By midnight, it had hit 10 million views. By the next morning, 30 million. Headlines popped up everywhere. Filipino farmer becomes overnight rock legend. From muddy fields to X Factor glory, must watch. Comments poured in from around the world. This man sings with soul, never cried from a rock performance until now, someone sign him now. Back in his small village in Negros, word spread even faster. Families gathered around a single TV in the barangay hall. Children sat cross-legged on the floor while elders wiped tears as they watched Lauro belt out his rock anthem. Some couldn't believe the humble man who helped harvest their crops was now dazzling the world on international television. The village erupted in cheers with every replay. When Lauro finally returned home weeks later, he expected a quiet arrival. Instead, the entire community filled the dusty road leading to his house. Banners hung between coconut trees. "Welcome home, our rockstar." People clapped, cried, and hugged him like he had come back from a great battle. Lauro's mother ran to him first. With trembling hands, she cupped his face and whispered, "Anik, your voice brought hope to all of us. You showed the world who we are." Tears glistened in her eyes, and Lauro hugged her tightly, realizing that winning wasn't the true reward, lifting his people's spirits was. As he looked over the fields where he once sang alone, a warm breeze brushed his face. This time, he wasn't just a farmer. He was a symbol. He was home.